see you back in the big chair, Pat.
All right. I appreciate that, Sal, very much. And thanks for all your help over the last couple of weeks, Sal. You are, without a doubt. Those of you watching don't know what a real gentleman Sal Paolantonio is, but I can vouch. All right, Sal, a very gutsy win in New Orleans for Philadelphia. Just give me a comment on that in the couple minutes we have before the break. What you saw in that game, especially defensively from the Eagles.
Well, there's two things, Pat, and I'm at NFL Films in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and we just finished taping the matchup show for this weekend, and we showed two things in that game that really worked for the Eagles. Let's start with the defense. It was obviously a Jalen Carter show. Vic Fangio changed a few things on the defensive line, changed to a heavy package, went with 6 defensive linemen often to try to mitigate the running game of the Saints that had beat up the Cowboys pretty bad. And I thought that Zach Bond did a great job in their 2 safeties. So right up the middle, they were very strong. They were like the Yankees of 1936, strong up the middle. And that was the difference. He unleashed Jalen Carter, and I expect him to try to do that against the Bucs, a very weak Bucs offensive line, and a quarterback that has been sacked the most in the NFL, Baker Mayfield. Then on the offensive side, it was a Saquon Barkley show in the fourth quarter. He just took it over. That was a guy who would just beat the defense, great vision, breakaway speed. That was his 3rd fastest run. This guy's got a lot of wear on his tires, and he proved that all of that offseason squat work he did with Jalen Hurts really paid off because he had some real gas in the tank in that football game.
He certainly did, Sal, and it was a game in which the Eagles really got some injuries, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Mekhi Becton, Lane Johnson, Devonta Smith, and they persevered throughout. But before we get to the break here, just tell me the offensive line. Tell me how you think it shapes up for this Sunday.
Well, you know their record without Lane Johnson. It's not good, and they're under 500 in Lane Johnson's career when he does not play. So he'll be a big loss for them, as he always is. This is a game where they, again, have to lean on the left side of their offensive line. They ran left after Lane Johnson went out of the game, and that was very successful. Jordan Mailata is a very underrated run blocker. He's very good, and I think they got to go heavy in terms of the packages they put on the field. And the other thing is that Jalen Hurts needs to read and react better. Now, I'm going to give you this number, and people need to remember this. This is very important. Jalen Hurts right now is throwing the football 3.2 seconds after the snap. That's the slowest in the NFL this year. That's the slowest in his career. So time to throw of 3.2 seconds, slowest in his career, slowest in the NFL this season. His ability to read and react quickly is almost negligible, and it's really hurting the Eagles' offensive line because the Eagles' offensive line, according to ESPN Next Gen Stats, the Eagles' offensive line, Pat, has a pass block win rate that's second best in the National Football League. So Hurts is hurting his ability to have a clean pocket.
Yeah. And with that length of time that it's taken them to get rid of the ball, Sal, compounded, and we'll talk after the break, where he might not have his 2 top wide receivers. That might only get worse this Sunday. When we get back, I'm going to ask Sal too about the head coach's maddening propensity to eschew field goals and embrace analytics. And we'll also talk about how the Eagles are going to roll out a passing game where they might be missing their top 2 wide receivers. That is all next. Welcome back. This week of pro football, Pat Callahan joining you for week number 4 on JAKIB Sports, and always excited to have the great Sal Paolantonio with me to get everybody ready for the National Football League. All right, Sal. The first question, you were kind enough to send me the transcript from the press conference with Nick Sirianni, and the first question he was asked was about, in a very tight game and a very low-scoring game, his decision not to kick a field goal with 14 seconds to go in the first half against the New Orleans Saints on a 4th and 3. Just give me your thoughts on why this man is so aggressive. And at some point, and especially in a game like that, Sal, don't you take the points, especially on the road?
Well, you take the points for sure, on the road for sure, but early in the game too. And what's the most important thing that we have learned on This Week in Pro Football over the last 2 years? And I've said it and I'll say it again once more with feeling, Pat Callahan. We are in a one-score league. Over the last 2 seasons, the highest percentage in NFL history of games have ended in 1 score or less, 8 points or less. So you've got to take the points. Now, late in the game, you don't kick the field goal and you run time off the clock to force the quarterback to go 90 yards with no time on the clock, with less time on the clock, than to go 70 yards. And he can't spread the ball around and you can attack him. So I think in both cases, those were misguided decisions, to be charitable about it. But you look at the 5 teams right now that are undefeated. They all have one thing in common, Pat. They are winning the close games. And they have a good pass rush. They have a consistent, creative pass rush. Pat, this is the NFL that you and I love. Sacks are a 5-year high. Rushing yards per team, per game, are their highest since 1983, Pat. We are playing 70s football. Passing yards are at their lowest per team, per game since 1992. So what does that tell you? Close games in the NFL, take the points, Pat. Take them whenever you can get them.
There you go. There you go, Sal. I buy up on that 100%. Sal, another residue from the.
All we need is Ray Scott and Pat Summerall.
I could use that. Man, could I use it? Ray Scott. Unfortunately, most of the people.
Come down from the heavens, Pat. Let them come down.
Most of the people watching don't know who Ray Scott was.
Please they know. If they're watching This Week in Pro Football with Pat Callahan, they know who Ray Scott is.
You got it right. Sal, another a bad side effect of the game in New Orleans was the concussion to Devonta Smith. I'd be very surprised if he's able to go. Give me the latest you have on Smith. And also, if in fact he doesn't go, how do the Eagles approach their passing game without their top 2 wide receivers?
Well, it's going to be tough. There's no question about it. Here it is Thursday, September 26th, and I just got the Eagles practice report. Lane Johnson didn't practice with a concussion. Devontae Smith didn't practice with a concussion. And A.J. Brown did not practice with a hamstring injury. So they're not trending in the right direction. And that's 3 big losses on offense. And it goes back to what you said before, Pat. You've got to lean on Saquon Barkley. You got to run left like you did against New Orleans. You got to lean on Dallas Goedert. And, you know, Johan Dotson's got to show up at some point. You gave up a draft pick for the young man. He was 5th lowest in the NFL in terms of catches per routes run last year for a reason. The Commanders gave up on him because they drafted a McCaffrey to go in that slot, and they're very happy with him. Right. And Cliff Kingsbury, perfect match for Jayden Daniels. They didn't need a guy who doesn't get open, and Dotson doesn't get open. So, I mean, they're going to have to lean on those guys. There's no question about it. And this is a tough game. But the Eagles still are favored to win this game, and I do believe that they will win this game.
At Tampa, as I said in the open, just a terrible performance last week against Denver, Sal. I think Tampa rolled their helmets out there thinking they were going to beat the Broncos without a sweat, and they found out differently, 26-7. As you pointed out, the NFL is razor thin these days. You never know when you try it out on the field how you're going to make out. And I think Tampa was surprised. All right, Sal, you also sent me some stats, and one that I thought was particularly interesting, and that is that Jalen Hurts over the 20 games since the start of the 2023 season has the most turnovers in the NFL, 26 in 20 games. Give me your thoughts on Hurts. You mentioned a few minutes ago how he's got the second longest hold rate in terms of the length of time it's taken to get rid of the ball. Just tell me where you think Hurts is right now going into this game.
Now, Pat, to be clear about it, his time to throw is 3.2 seconds. That's slowest in the NFL, slowest. Okay. That's slowest in his career. So he is taking an eternity, snap to release of the football.
Right.
He's the slowest in the NFL, slowest in his career. That's, in my view, the number one reason he does that he's got the number of turnovers that he does, and that he's in harm's way in the pocket as much as he is, and the fact that he has got to roll out. Guys are open. Now, maybe not Dotson, maybe not Goddard, but, A.J. Brown certainly was open a lot in the Green Bay Packer game, and he didn't get the football. Devontae Smith was open. So this is a clear indication that it falls on the quarterback. It falls on the offensive coordinator. He's got a very good quarterbacks coach in Doug Nussmeier and Nick Sirianni. These three coaches and that smart quarterback, and he's got a lot of wins despite the fact that he's got so many turnovers. Second most wins and second best winning percentage to Patrick Mahomes in the last 2 years.
Right.
So he's got a lot of wins, but eventually it's going to catch up with him.
It has to, and he's got to start getting rid of that ball faster. And they're going into a place where they have some very bad recent memory. It'll be interesting to see how the Eagles do.
Nobody blitzes more than Todd Bowles. If you remember, after the wild card game, I was on your show, and I told the story, Pat. After that game, I went into Todd Bowles' office, and I said, "You're not done blitzing Jalen Hurts, are you?" The game was over. Yeah. And he's sitting there drinking a cup of coffee, smoking a cigar. And he goes, "No, I'm not done." Yeah. I mean, here are the numbers. 4 head-to-head matchups with Todd Bowles. Jalen Hurts has more interceptions, 5, than touchdown passes, 4. Jalen has been contacted 52 times in those 4 games, the most he has against any one team in his career. And Jalen was blitzed 48% of the time. Half the time, Bowles brought the blitz. He's going to bring the blitz on Sunday. It's coming.
Yep. Tampa, through 3 weeks, as you point out here, Tampa is 4th in the NFL in blitz frequency, 37%. It was 59% in the wild card win over the Eagles in January. So you're right. He dials it up against Hurts, and the concern is Hurts now has to respond when that is stopped to wide receiver.
Yeah, but I think, Pat, in this game, the number one matchup that favors the Eagles is the Eagles' defensive line against the Bucs' offensive line that has been hurt a lot. Another guy holding the ball too long is Baker Mayfield. He's been sacked the most in the NFL. I think this is a game where the Eagles' defense can and will dominate.
All right. Sounds like another lower scoring game. Let's kick some field goals, Sal. All right, listen, I want to look around the NFL with you in the few minutes that we have left. I'm very interested in your opinion on a very strong speech that Mike Greenberg made on the show Get Up on ESPN. And it was about Jerry Jones, the general manager. The fact that Jones waited until the national anthem on week 1 to sign Dak Prescott, and the contract he ended up giving CeeDee Lamb just about a week before the season started, Sal, meaning he was paying top dollar. Both contracts were the richest contracts for the position. Whereas had he signed them a year ago, he'd have had that V, right? He wouldn't have paid that premium. So, and Greenberg's point was he could have used that money to sign a Derrick Henry, whereas now the running game that the Cowboys have. I want your thoughts on what Greenberg said. Is it accurate? And should Jerry Jones, the owner, be looking for a new general manager?
That's not going to happen. You can forget that. So we'll throw that out. Right. But let's forget about the money, Pat. The money was always there. It was there for Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Derrick Henry. He has the money. The money's available. He makes more money than any other franchise in professional sports, including Manchester United and the New York Yankees. Dallas Cowboys, number 1, most valued franchise in the NFL. He has more revenue coming out of that stadium than all the other NFL teams. So he's got cash to pay guaranteed bonuses to players. Money was there for Derrick Henry. Now, I'm not sure Derrick Henry wanted to go to Dallas. I think he's perfectly happy in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. That's another story. But the money was there. It's not about the money. It's about the psychology, Pat. The team has been waiting all summer for Dak Prescott to be made whole. all summer for CeeDee Lamb to be made happy. Right. What are you doing waiting all summer to the doorstep of the season until you flip the light switch on for your football team?
Yeah.
Money is psychology for these players. They see it. They see other players getting paid. The money is there through the NFL's marriage with betting, sports betting. The money's there from television. The money is there. That's not the issue. The issue is, how do you manage the money to make your team happy? This is one of the geniuses of Howie Roseman. He's made some mistakes personnel-wise. I get that. But you got to give him his due, that he went out and he made A.J. Brown happy. He made Smith happy. He made Mailata happy. He made all of these players. He made Saquon Barkley happy. Look how it's paying off for this football team, Pat.
You got it right, Sal. All right,
it's Sal. It's psychology, Pat. It's all about the psychology, man.
All right. Here, I want some psychology from you right now, Sal. We got 2 minutes left. I'm going to name you the 5 3-0 teams. You already rattled them off. I want you to tell me whose Kool-Aid you're drinking at 3-0.
Okay.
Do you believe in the Minnesota Vikings?
Absolutely, yes. 2 thumbs up.
And Brian Flores has done a hell of a job with that defense. And Sam Darnold, I think he's just escaped from New York, Sal. Escaped from New York for Sam. Kansas City, I'm not surprised, Sal, 3-0. They got the best quarterback in the world.
They have the best quarterback in the world. But, Pat, they are not in the top 10 in any defensive or offensive category. Yeah. Travis Kelce has 11 targets, Pat, and they're 3-0.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And they got a coach and a quarterback that knows
how
to win. That's it. Are you surprised, and are you buying off on the 3-0 Seattle Seahawks?
Not yet. I want to see Geno play an entire year. But when you look at that defense that Mike McDonald put together, it's the same defense that the Baltimore Ravens ran. He just brought it out to Seattle.
A big game for them Monday night, Sal, in Detroit. That could be a statement game for the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, Sal, have to be the worst of the 3-0 teams. The Steelers are 3-0, maybe just by scheduling, but I just can't buy off on that offense.
Well, raise your hand if you had the Steelers 3-0 with Justin Fields. I mean, come on, who had that?
Right.
I mean, you did that. You know, you're living high on the hog somewhere. Yeah. You're going to steak dinners for the next 2 weeks. But Pat, look at the defense. They've given up 8.7 points a game, Pat. You give up less than 10 points a game, you're going to win all your football games. I don't care who's playing quarterback.
Right.
You only have to score a touchdown and a field goal to win. Right. 8 points. You know, Terrell Austin, their defensive coordinator, very underrated. They have one of the best pass rushers in T.J. Watt. They already have Minka Fitzpatrick. They stole Patrick Queen from Baltimore to play the middle of the field at linebacker. Watch that defense, Pat.
All right. And the last is the Buffalo Bills. Sal, I think they always come out of the chute like a Kentucky Derby horse grabs the rail. But then, at some point, the reliance on Josh Allen just wears them out. Give me your thoughts on the Bills.
Well, they're not. This year, Joe Brady is definitely running the ball more. They've been running out of heavy packages. Their number of snaps in the run game is at 57% over 3 weeks, which is very good. I mean, the Jaguars didn't put up much of a resistance whatsoever. This game in Baltimore will be a lot different, and we'll see exactly where the Buffalo Bills are after this game. But, the one team that we haven't mentioned, and we'll mention them next week, is the New York Jets.
Right.
Pat, I watched them on tape. Pat, I'm telling you, the defense looks very, very good, very active. Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers is throwing the ball with great accuracy from the pocket and on the run.
Jets could be trouble. It's going to be an interesting
trouble.
I think the two East, I think the NFC East is going to be very interesting this year, Sal. I think the AFC East, Buffalo and the Jets are going to have a hell of a run in the AFC. But it's about time we started talking about those.
Yeah, and you remember I was on your show on 1210, and I said, Cliff Kingsbury and the Commander. You asked me for a surprise team. Yeah. I said Jaden Daniels is perfect for Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah. Perfect. Now, losing Eckler like they have is going to be tough. That'll be a setback. It's one game. I get it. One game.
All right, listen, Sal, thanks very much. So you gave me a ton of time today. I appreciate it. You're a hell of a gentleman, and I certainly appreciate you taking all the time and all the information. And
I'll send you the bill, Pat. No problem. You'll send.
I look forward to talking to you again.
We'll go to breakfast at Uncle Bill's down in Ocean City.
All right. Thanks again, Sal. Appreciate it very much, pal.
All right. See you.
All right, Sal Paolantonio joining me there. Thanks again, Sal. When we get back, another distinguished gentleman ensconced out in Vegas. That's the great Sean Green. We're going to talk about some props and some spreads and parlays. We'll do that all next on This Week in Pro Football.